Last week I was lucky enough to visit Paducah, Kentucky during the AQS QuiltWeek show with my mom, and it was so much fun. She's the one who instilled a love of making things with my hands ever since I was just a very, very small child, so she was the perfect show companion. We arrived in Paducah in the early afternoon on Thursday, and we headed straight to the Quilt Museum, not the quilt show. The museum, I will say, it was a lot smaller than I expected, but it was absolutely filled with an impressive number of quilts. Just wonderful. The first exhibit we visited was the mini quilts, and these were seriously impressive. The scale for some of them were unbelievable. I'm talking like half-inch piecing here, probably smaller actually. I know for sure that the applique had pieces smaller than a 1/4 inch, so super tiny. This case of doll quilts was adorable too. And again, look at that piecing, so tiny. And surprisingly, I really enjoyed the whole cloth mini quilts. Don't get me wrong, all of these mini quilts were beautiful, but there was something about the whole cloth quilts that really made me want to reach out and touch them. I didn't, but I wanted to. Then we moved on to Latifah Safer's exhibit. I think that's how you pronounce her name. I believe the collection was called It Was All a Dream. So I was really pleasantly surprised to see her quilts exhibited. I think this one was my favorite. Don't ask me why, it just really spoke to me. But it was really nice to see her quilts in person and get close enough to see all the little details. Next was a whole section of challenge quilts. The exhibit was called New Quilts from an Old Favorite. Every single quilt was food themed and had to include a classic quilt block. So like a sawtooth star, a drunkard's path, a snail trail, that kind of thing. It was completely up to the artist. And this was such a fun group of quilts. There were so many different styles, so many different ideas. I even got to meet a couple of the artists too, which was fun. The Tula Pink exhibit was next, and what an absolute treat. Her quilts are amazing. I mean, I already knew they were amazing, but seeing them in person was like a whole new level of amazing, because they're just so rich in detail. There's the fussy cutting, the color choices, the creativity. I loved it all. Each of her quilts were shown with sketches and mock-ups, which was an additional treat because it was just nice to see how something from a page, from her mind, from a sketch gets translated into fabric. Now, as wonderful as each of her quilts are, I did have a clear favorite, and it was this one. I would absolutely love to make this pattern, or even do individual blocks as little mini quilts. That would be super cute, although I have no idea how I would tackle color choices, but it could be so much fun, right? And it would also take me years to finish because I know myself and I am a slow appliquer. There were even more amazing quilts sprinkled around before I got to the next exhibit, and as I was looking back through my videos, I have no idea how they relate to one another. I don't know if it was another exhibit or just some random quilts. All I know is they were stunning and intricate, and they were a treat for the eyes. The last exhibit was a collection of Janet Stone quilts called And Now I Know My ABCs. And I was lucky enough to see her in person talking about her quilts and her process, so that was a really fun surprise. This was my first time seeing Janet Stone's quilts, and I was very impressed. They were immaculate, they were so well designed, so many really intricate details. And one of the elements that kept jumping out at me were the edges of her quilts, the bindings, the finishes. There were so many different elaborate finishes that I haven't seen before. Janet's exhibit was my mom's favorite. She loved every single quilt, and she got to ask Janet a question. That was a high point for her, I think. After we were done at the Quilt Museum, we drove around town a little bit just to do a little bit of sightseeing, and we found this lovely park. People were playing pickleball, tennis, basketball, and there were even people fishing in this pond. It was just very idyllic and peaceful. And I know that if I lived in Paducah, I would be going there all the time, rain or shine. The next morning, we arrived at the convention center just after the doors opened, and I was immediately overwhelmed. It was really crowded, people everywhere. I didn't take a single picture. I didn't record any videos. If I wanted to get good shots, I would have had to sort of weasel myself in front of a crowd of people to get the shot, and I just was not willing to do that. So instead of videos, I present to you the show book. So everyone who bought a ticket got one of these, and this is the map. So here in the middle, the blue, those are all quilts, and then everything in green around it, those were all vendors. And it was a lot. It was a lot. And this wasn't even the half of it because there were 2 other places that you could go. So this was the Expo Center. Then there was the second floor convention center, and the same thing. Blue was quilts wrapped around the wall, and then these were vendors, and then I believe these were classrooms. And then on top of all of that, there was also the Dome Pavilion, and again, green vendors and blue quilts. So not as many quilts here, but it was a lot. And I think in the future, if I went back, I would break this up into 2 days instead of trying to pack everything into 1 day. We made it all the way around the expo hall. We admired all of the quilts. We looked in every single shop. I bought the show catalog because at this point I knew that I wasn't going to be taking any pictures. And I'm really glad I did, because there were some really amazing quilts that I want to be able to look at again. Absolutely fantastic. So many different styles. And some of them were so amazingly detailed. This one here, this is thread painted. This is all thread painted. But really just an absolute pleasure to look at each and every one of these. So I'm really glad I got this. But this ended up being the only thing that I bought, because I thought maybe fabric would be a great thing to buy there, but nothing was catching my eye. Oh, and also, before I forget, I'm going to leave a link in the description of this video that will take you to see the winners of the show. I think it's just the winners, because this book has, 379 quilts in it. And I don't think there's that many on the website, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, this was my only purchase. I did see a very fancy iron that I really wanted, but it was way outside of my price range. My mom, on the other hand, found several things that she liked. Most of them were embroidery related, which was a surprise to her and to me. And I wanted to show you a couple of my favorite things that she bought. These are threads from Wonderfill, and I must be living under a rock because I don't think I've ever noticed Wonderfill before. I've noticed Aurifil, and maybe I saw it and I just grouped them together. I don't know. But this is Dazzle, and they are dazzling. Look at this black. It's so subtle, the black one. But they are absolutely gorgeous, and I'm hoping she won't miss one of these. Maybe she'll donate one because I love each and every one of them. Here's Dazzle right here. It's an 8-weight, 6-ply rayon with 1 strand of metallic. And this is a really helpful little pamphlet too, because it tells you uses and sizes and needles that you might want to use with them. So this booth, we actually were there for a while, which is surprising because usually, thread's thread most of the time. Another embroidery specific thing was this book, which is just adorable. So Book Lovers Embroidery. There's 50 iron-on designs in here, and they are so adorable. And they're based on classic children's literature or just the love of books in general. So a book growing a tree. Look at the little guy. Usually I don't like gnomes, but he's so cute, that little guy. This one is from Anne of Green Gables. Imagination is what you need. And we've got sort of a book mandala. There are a lot of really great ones here. I'm going to skip ahead to my favorite one. Here's Secret Garden. But my absolute favorite one is this little dragon. I don't know what it is about it. I love it. It's a dragon hoarding books. I feel like any of these would be so good as the dragon. Just a little bit of sparkle for his scales. There are so many really adorable illustrations in here. I would highly recommend you pick up a copy. My other favorite one is this one, the Alice in Wonderland one. How cute is that? Curiouser and Curiouser. And they're all backwards because these are iron-on transfers. So you would take this page out, lay the page on top of your fabric, and then iron it on. And you could probably get a couple irons or a couple projects out of each of these. Here's a Wizard of Oz one. There's No Place Like Home. Anyway, you get the point. I'm going to add a link in the description of this video for this book because it is worth a look. It's so cute. And before I forget, I should mention this quilt by Ricky Timms. It was in the middle of everything. He won something. I'm so bad about noticing who won and for what. But he was right here in the middle. And this was his quilt. And it was stunning. He wrote this poem for it, and it was written all around the binding. And this QR code here, hopefully you can scan it. It leads to a 20-minute video that talks all about how he made this, how he designed it, how he put it together in minute detail. So I think a lot of people will want to see that. I'm also going to add the link in the description of this video too, in case that code doesn't work for you. But it was absolutely stunning in person. And he was there. He was so friendly and nice. So after we made a complete circuit of the expo center, we had lunch. We came back and we looked all around the second floor of the convention center. And let me tell you, we were exhausted by this point. By this point, we didn't have the stamina to look at every single thing and look inside every single shop. We spent a long time here. We just didn't really see everything in as great of detail as we did in the expo center. And unfortunately, we never made it to the dome because we wanted to go to Hancock of Paducah. So we left the convention center, headed on over there. It wasn't too far away. And let me tell you, it was packed, just as packed as the convention center was, with people and with fabric. So again, I did not take any pictures. Luckily, there are a lot of pictures online, so we can sort of scroll through those as I talk about it. It doesn't look like much from the outside, but I could live in this store, I swear. The number of cutting stations was impressive. One thing that shocked me, though, was that the minimum size they cut was 1 yard. I usually get like maybe a third of a yard, maybe a half yard max. So if I could have gotten smaller cuts, I would have gone crazy in here. But I find it really hard to find fabrics that I want a whole yard of. So I ended up walking away with just this one 1 yard cut. Let's zoom in. They're a bunch of little ponies. Very cute. It'll make a good background someday. I think it's laundry basket quilts. Let's see. Andover. Yep. I love laundry basket quilts. And again, my mom found a ton of things she wanted. She went crazy. Well, not crazy, but crazier than me. Got several 1 yard cuts and this mystery scrap bag. And this was really fun to unpack. In this bag, it's mainly strips. And it's mainly Cape Facet and a little bit of Tula Pink, you can see right here. And I would say these are like 1.5 inches. Let's get a ruler. Yeah, so excluding the selvage, they're about 1.5 inches for this little bundle. And each color or each fabric seemed to have 2 strips apiece. And this is so not my mom's style of fabric, so these are actually going to be mine. So I think a strip quilt is in my future. And normally I wouldn't buy Cape fabric either because it's just a lot and I don't really know how to tackle it and how to choose fabrics for a quilt from his collections. But with them being all together like this, I feel like I'm just going to take those, I'm going to run with it, see what happens. Here's the Tula. I love this top one, this houndstooth one. It's just a nice little mix of fabrics. And then I also got bigger cuts of Tulas. And what is this, True Colors or something? Let's look at the, yeah. Can you see? Maybe not. Right there, you can barely see. And I actually have a black and white quilt that I've been planning on for ages that this can fit right into. So there's that, and then the last scraps were pretty much the same as the first batch of Cave fabrics. There were a lot of duplicates, but again, these cuts are much wider. Oh no, they're not. I thought they were much wider. They're just 2 inches instead of 1.5 inch. We talked to another woman who had bought several, I think she said 8 of these mystery bags, and she didn't have like any strips like this. She mostly had larger cuts, and that's what I normally would have wanted, but because I have so many of these, this can definitely make a strip quilt. Maybe a small one, but still, I think this could be a whole quilt. And that, my friends, was the end of the trip. I had to spend a couple days recuperating before I got started on this video. It was a great trip, just very overwhelming. I have no regrets, and I would highly recommend it to all of my fellow quilters. Plus, if you can't make it to Paducah, you can also try any of these cities here. I had no idea they went anywhere but Paducah. Everyone always talks about Paducah. But now I'm wondering if I should go again next year or head over to QuiltCon instead so I can compare and contrast the two different shows because I feel like they probably have very different vibes. Thanks for spending time with me today, quilters. If you want to support this channel and help me buy supplies and materials for future videos, please visit my Buy Me a Coffee page linked in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss upcoming videos. And I'll see you again real soon. Bye!